I'm just looking to see what I can read before I turn to start. Okay. All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Monday, January 11th, 2021. How about that?
Yes.
2021. Who would have thought that, huh? How about that?
Great. Yes. Wonderful.
Hopefully everybody had a good New Year since the last time we spoke. Although no, we had current events last week, so we're good. And again, I'm reading out the East Bay Times so we can catch up on what happened over the weekend. Okay. One of the big stories that happened last week is still all the people who rushed the Capitol building and 5 people died.
Oh.
Wow. They literally rushed the Capitol building, and we're talking about taking people hostage, taking senators and Congress people hostage.
Oh, really? That was last
week, last Wednesday. Yeah, sure was. Okay, so let's read this then. Push to impeach Trump is building. So Trump only has like 8 more days or 9 more days in office, but they don't want him in there for that long because they think he can do a lot of damage. They want to try to impeach him or get him to resign. Okay. So House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said Sunday that the House will proceed with legislation to impeach Donald Trump, calling him a threat to democracy after the deadly assault on the Capitol. Pelosi made the announcement in a letter to colleagues. She said the House will act with solemnity, but also urgency, with just days remaining before Trump is to leave office on January 20th. So 9 days from now.
Wow.
In protecting our Constitution and our democracy, we will act with urgency because this president represents an imminent threat to both, she said. In protecting our Constitution, or the horror of the ongoing assault on our democracy perpetrated by this president is intensified, and so is the immediate need for action. With impeachment planning intensifying, 2 Republican senators want Trump to resign immediately as efforts mount to prevent Trump from ever again holding elective office in the wake of deadly riots in the Capitol. House Democrats are expecting to introduce articles of impeachment today and vote as soon as Tuesday. The strategy would be to condemn the president's actions swiftly, but delay an impeachment trial in the Senate for 100 days. That would allow President-elect Joe Biden to focus on other priorities as soon as he is inaugurated January 20th. Republican Jim Clyburn, the 3rd ranking House Democrat and a top Biden ally, laid out the idea Sunday as the country came to grips with the siege at the Capitol by the Trump loyalists trying to overturn the election results. Let's give President-elect Joe Biden the 100 days he needs to get his agenda off and running, Clyburn said. Pressure was mounting for Trump to leave office even before his term ended amid alarming concerns of more unrest ahead of the inauguration. The president whipped up the mob that stormed the Capitol, sent lawmakers into hiding, and left 5 dead. Republican Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania on Sunday joined Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska in calling for Trump to resign and go away as soon as possible. I think the president has disqualified himself from ever certainly serving in office again, Toomey said. I don't think he is electable in any way.
Who is that?
Donald Trump.
Oh, God.
They don't think Donald Trump is electable in any way anymore. What do you think?
I think he's elected. I don't think he can be elected.
You don't think so? You think he should just go away and
Yeah.
go to his little hole in the corner of the world and don't say things?
You think of the people what it's gonna happen.
That's true.
Way too much.
That's true. Let's see what else we got. Oh, they got a lot of news in here today, man. So here's one. Here's one about the coronavirus vaccine, which I got the first one on Friday.
Oh, you got the vaccine?
I did.
Oh,
So, vaccine rollout confirms health officials' warnings. Public health officials sounded the alarm for months, complaining that they did not have enough support or money to get the COVID-19 vaccines quickly into arms. Now, the slower than expected start to the largest vaccination effort in U.S. history is proving them right. As they work to ramp up the shots, states and local public health departments across the U.S. cite a variety of obstacles, most notably a lack of leadership from federal government. Many officials worry that they are losing precious time at the height of the pandemic, and delays could cost lives. States lament a lack of clarity on how many doses they will receive and when. They say more resources should have been devoted to the education campaigns to ease concerns among people leery of getting the shots. And although the federal government recently approved $8.7 billion for the vaccine effort, it will take time to reach places that could have used the money months ago to prepare to deliver the shots more effectively. Such complaints have become common refrain in a nation where public health officials have been left largely on their own to solve complex problems. The reoccurring theme is the lack of national strategy in the attempt to pass the buck down the line, lower and lower until the poor people at the receiving end have nobody else that they can send the bucks to, said Gianfranco Pizzini, who was the public health officer in Shawnee County, Texas, until retiring last month. Operation Warp Speed, the federal vaccine program, has promised to distribute enough doses to immunize 20 million people in the US in December. It missed that target, and as of Friday, about 6.6 million people have received their first dose, according to the tracker for the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. About 22 million doses have been delivered to the states. The American Hospital Association has estimated that 1.8 million people need to be vaccinated daily from January 1st to May 31st to reach widespread herd immunity by the summer. The current pace is more than 1 million people per day below that. President-elect Joe Biden on Friday called the rollout a travesty, noting the lack of national plan to get doses into arms and reiterating his commitment to administer 100 million shots in the first 100 days. He has not shared details and was expected to discuss the effort this week. His office announced a plan to release most doses right away, rather than holding second doses in reserve, the more conservative approach taken by the Trump administration. The Trump administration defined its primary role as developing coronavirus vaccines and delivering them to states, which would then take over and ensure the vaccine doses traveled the last mile into arms. Each state had developed its own plan, including issuing guidelines for who gets the vaccine first. Several experts complained about that approach, saying it led to confusion and a patchwork response. Well, some states are, like Florida, they started that. Florida started with everybody over the age of 65. Gets it first. You have places like New York, where the governor of New York made it illegal for hospitals. Let's say they have an extra dose left, right? Instead of them throwing it away, they could give it to the janitor in the hallway, right? But now the governor of Cuomo, New York, last week, he made some weird thing where he said if hospitals do that, they're going to be fined $1 million and could lose their license to operate, which is stupid because they need to be throwing away millions of doses because you have an extra one. You have nobody, you can't give to anybody. It's ridiculous. And even the mayor of New York is pushing back on that because it doesn't make any sense. The goal of the vaccine is to be able to get it out to as many people as possible in the shortest amount of time. So let's see. Let's look at some local news. So, know what's happening right now? The hills in the Bay Area are starting to turn green because of the rain and all the fog. It's starting to turn green now. It's my favorite time of year. Mm-hmm. All right, let's look at the Oakland Police Department. Officers' social media activity draws scrutiny. Investigations focus on possible support for U.S. Capitol rioting. The Oakland Police Department is investigating allegations some of its employees may have been involved in social media accounts with objectionable or offensive content. The values of the Oakland Police Department are clear. We will not tolerate any form of hate speech, any expression that supports hate speech, or any acts of subversion, whether in person or on an online platform. The police department said in a news release Friday night. The department said employees, whether on or off duty, are prohibited from affiliating with subversive groups and doing anything that brings disrepute to the agency. Any employee who violates these rules is subject to discipline, including termination, according to the release. The trust of our community is our highest priority, said interim Oakland Police Chief Susan Mannheimer in a statement. We will not tolerate any breach of that trust from any member of our department. The police department did not name the social media accounts, but a report by Oakland's side on Thursday noted some officers, like former Oakland police officer Gerald Snyder's Facebook post about the pro-Trump mob takeover of the U.S. Capitol. Oh, where am I here? I lost my spot.
Okay,
Where am I?
you can wait.
Hold on.
Yes, sir.
Snyder told KPIX he was in Washington, D.C. and marched with the crowd to the building. In one post, Snyder claimed that Antifa set us and the cops up for a flare-up, referring to the clashes between supporters of the president and law enforcement officers. There is no evidence the violent rioters who breached the Capitol were supporters of Antifa, short for anti-fascist, as an umbrella term for the far left-leaning militant groups. What do you think of that? Some of the people that were supporting or participating in the rioting at the Capitol were Oakland police officers. What did that say? Does that make them horrible people? Does that make them horrible people that they participated in that? I would say not horrible people, bad decisions. I would call that bad decision making. Not horrible people, because good people make bad decisions all the time. Especially if you really, really believe in something and nothing's going to turn your belief, good people can do some very terrible things. It's the way of the world. The way the world's been for thousands of years of humans. All right, let's see what we got here. This is a scary one. Not scary, but from Brentwood. Boy charged with murder, accused of stabbing dad.
Oh.
So from Brentwood, California, a minor child was arrested and charged with murder after he stabbed his father to death Saturday, police said. About 9:43 a.m. Saturday, officers responded to the 800 block of Dainty Avenue to investigate a reported stabbing inside the residence. When officers arrived, they found 37-year-old father from Brentwood had suffered multiple stab wounds. The father was transported to the local hospital but died from his injuries. His identity has not been immediately released. Police said the man and his son were involved in an altercation before the stabbing. The son fled the scene after the stabbing but was found about a block away. The boy was arrested and charged with murder, said the police. With murder. Police said they also recovered the weapon used in the stabbing. Man. So I wonder what kind of argument they got into where the boy felt he had to stab his dad.
Oh my goodness.
I think it has to do with the pandemic and freaking people and kids going crazy, literally. Suicides are up for kids right now, under the age of 18, because of the pandemic and having to stay inside. It's crazy.
He killed his father.
What's that?
He killed his father.
He did. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Boy, you get so mad.
He killed his daddy.
Wow. Never let his daddy kill him.
All right, let's look at Bay Area weather. From Monterey, California. It's going to start feeling like spring in the Bay Area this week. It's going to start feeling like spring in the Bay Area this week, as temperatures are set to rise up to 10 degrees above normal across the region, forecasters said. How about that? National Weather Service meteorologist Roger Gass said Sunday he is anticipating a high-pressure system for the coming week, with mostly dry conditions dominating across the bay and not much cloud cover. He said temperatures will be in the low to mid 60s today into Tuesday and end up around the upper 60s and 70s by the end of the week. How about that? So it's going to go from being like 50 every day to about 75 every day this week. So that means we're not going to need our big coats this week, huh? After today, whew, not going to need our big coats after today. Let's see what else we got. All right, let's see what else we got. You know what? Let's look at our advice columns. How about that? Yeah, we like the advice columns. The first one is marriage. This is going to be called Miss Manners, which you read every week. Actually, we're going to start with advice from Ask Amy. Marriage consumed by politics. So, dear Amy, when I married my lovely wife, spent my life with her, was that I valued her intelligence. Now, many years later, I can't mention the latest pandemic news or anything else for that matter without her going ballistic if it doesn't support what the outgoing president is espousing in his latest tweets. She believes that anything reported in the mainstream media, especially the newspapers, which she totally despises, is a lie. This leaves very little for a person who has no political affiliation to talk to her about. It is also very tough to get her to go along with many of the COVID-19 guidelines. She also wants to relocate from a very nice area and the community I have lived in my whole life because she feels the state's government is too liberal. I'm feeling pretty lost right now. Any suggestions would be great. That's weird. That's kind of scary, huh? You've been married to this woman for many years and now you can't even talk to her about anything because she goes crazy?
That's very good. Yeah, she's old.
Let's listen to what Amy replies. Dear Lost, without judging your wife's intelligence, our political opinions, it's obvious that you two are at a relationship impasse. So what does a relationship impasse mean? What does that mean, a relationship impasse? It means that a relationship impasse basically means that you're at a point where you go either way. You go divorce or you can work it out and stay together. Yeah. Let's hope so. Let's see. Yep. Let's read what the rest of Amy says. When she talks about moving and leaving the state, is she really talking about leaving you? It undoubtedly feels that way to you. Couples on opposite ends of the political spectrum can have healthy relationships as long as each recognizes the other's point of view and tries to understand the rationale for their viewpoint. Have your wife's overall views toward the world changed? And if so, can she explain when this happened and why? Without offering knee-jerk and defensive reactions to one another, you and she might find a sliver of common ground upon which to rebuild. And then you both can revert to the old age wisdom of picking your battles wisely. Marriage counseling could help you communicate more effectively about your problems, including discussing the reaction you each see your lives taking, including discussing the direction you each see your lives taking. Her reaction to the idea of meeting with a counselor would reveal the extent of her commitment to moving your marriage back toward the center of your lives. That was good advice, right? Try to communicate with your spouse or your girlfriend if you have different political views, and try and see why he or she has those views. Right? If you know why they have those views, then you can come to an agreement to either not talk about it or talk about certain things only. You can still love each other 98% of the time, right? Because if you're married for 40 years, do you think it's all good? It can't be all good. There's gonna be some bad times, right? Maybe a bad few years. Whatever. Maybe financial troubles for a few years. Man. Here's one. Dear Amy, Concerned reported that her very close friend had recently suffered the loss of her own dear friend, a married man who Concerned suspected was more than just a friend. Wait, what? Okay, you encourage Concerned to dive in and try to figure out the nature of this relationship. Amy, it is none of your business. Dear Upset, Concerned was genuinely worried about the extreme grief her friend was experiencing over the recent death. She reported that her friend seemed to want to talk about the nature of the relationship. Because of that, I encourage Concerned to remain open and available to discuss it without judgment. So basically, let's say I had a friend that was a woman who died. And her and I, she was married, but her and I were knocking boots the whole time. We loved each other, but we couldn't do anything because she was married. And then she died, and I was really depressed. Listen, that's a hypothetical. Didn't actually happen to me. But am I the bad guy for cheating on him? Cheating? All right, let's see here. Now we're going to get to some today in history. Today in history. So today in history, you know what? We're going to read Animal Life first. Reader's solution for dog that is allowed to pee off balcony. On January, it says Reader's solution for dog that is allowed to pee off balconies. Pee off balconies. So he's on a balcony outside the apartment, lifts his leg and pees right over.
Suppose somebody's standing underneath.
Yeah. So on January 1st, I answered a letter from someone having trouble with upstairs neighbors on the 4th floor who repeatedly allowed their dog to urinate off the balcony and onto the balconies and patios below. They were so fed up by the failure of the owners and the homeowners association to act, they were considering moving. I offered my suggestion and asked you for yours. My favorite was the advice to give to the 5th floor residents a dog. Wait, I offered my suggestion and asked you for yours. My favorite was the advice to give the 5th floor residents a dog. Here are some more practical, less vengeful suggestions.
Oh, boy, though. They're not like the girl, though. Boy, do anything right there.
I know, huh?
Yeah.
Hold on. That's right. All right. So now we're going to go to Day in History.
Okay.
So today in history, again, it's January 11th, 1908. President Theodore Roosevelt proclaimed the Grand Canyon a national monument. So Theodore Roosevelt was the first president to really care about the environment. And he's the president who made it so that there's a National Parks Act. So all these national parks basically started with him. Because he saw the beauty in like Yosemite, because he traveled there, Grand Canyon, he saw the beauty in it and didn't want people coming in and building stuff on there. Right? Imagine Yosemite if it looked like LA. Kill all the animals and everything. January 11th, 1927. The creation of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science was proposed during a dinner of Hollywood luminaries at the Ambassador's Hotel in Los Angeles. That was the start of the Academy Awards. All right. 1935, January 11th. Aviator Amelia Earhart began an 18-hour trip from Honolulu to Oakland, California, that made her the first person to fly solo across any part of the Pacific Ocean. So Amelia Earhart. And then she actually took off from Oakland about 3 months later she'd be the first woman to fly around the world solo. But she crashed in the Pacific, or they don't know what happened. They think she probably crashed because she lost her bearings of where she was. So, and they've never found the wreckage. They've never found a body. There's been reports. There was reports because she landed in Japanese. They think she was in Japanese territory. So there's reports on an island out in the middle of the Pacific that the natives said that they saw a white woman that looked like a man. She had short hair, she wore clothes like a man, and she was taken into custody by the Japanese and executed. So there's rumors about that.
Yeah.
But nobody knows definitively because the Japanese have never said anything about it.
Okay.
January 11th, 2020. Health authorities in the central Chinese city of Wuhan reported the first death from what had been identified as the new type of coronavirus. So this day 1 year ago. Let's look at news of the weird. Yep, news of the weird. This one's called Home of Your Dreams. The house for sale at 43 Courthouse Drive in Gwendal Hall, Vermont, has 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, an updated kitchen, and 7 jail cells, complete with barred windows, toilets, and cots. United Press International reported that the property, listed at $149,000, holy moly, formerly served as the Essex County Jail, with the jailer's quarters attached to the back of the house. Out of use since 1969, the cells are, according to the listing, just waiting for a creative buyer to bring ideas of what this 28-foot by 40-foot wing could be. It was a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house with 7 jail cells.
Wow.
Yes. It's on sale for $149,000. That same house in Berkeley would cost like $2 million.
Wow.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right. So once again, thank you for joining me. My name is Diallo, and this is Current Event Monday. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.